McShurley, 1901 North Forest Avenue. Good evening, Council President and Council members. I'd like to thank you for attending this special meeting earlier this evening with Rhonda Cook representing the Indiana Association of Cities and Towns. Matt Greller, Tom Bredeweg, and Rhonda Cook have been very helpful by providing information as it happens during the legislative session and providing venues for mayors and town managers to learn the impact of the legislative changes, especially House Bill 1001. I have had a follow-up meeting with Larry Ingraham, our Japanese consultant, and Terry Murphy of Economic Development to discuss correspondence between entities we met during our trip to Japan. The relationship over the past 5 years enabled us to meet with clients with previous contacts during this trip. We continue to correspond with those we met and have answered their requests for additional information. I would encourage any of you to join the next trip to show your support of Japanese investment in our community. We traveled over 13,000 miles by air and 2,000 by train in a 10-day period. This trip is long but necessary if we want to tell our story to companies looking to invest in the United States. In regard to ADA, we are moving forward with ADA compliance issues. The Joint City Council and Disabilities Council will be in place this month. Several members of the Mayor's Council on Disabilities have offered to continue serving the community through volunteer efforts. Beverly Evans, the Delaware County Human Resources Coordinator and City-County ADA Coordinator, will be attending the annual ADA Coordinator Conference in Nevada this summer. I have committed to sharing her expenses as we continue to partner with the County Commissioners on ADA compliance. The Civic Center Authority has decided to assume the responsibility of a feasibility study regarding the joint management of a hotel and the Horizon Convention Center. Their next meeting is scheduled in August, at which time they will decide on whether to go forward with the previous responses for requests, for proposals, or review the questions that needed answered and review the request. We are working on greening opportunities within the departments of city government. I have asked the departments to turn off computers, copiers, and printers at the end of the day, make copies front and back, reduce margin sizes when possible, and share one printer per department. Also, Police Chief Davis has our officers parking cars in visible areas and writing reports in their cars instead of returning to City Hall. The Green Committee will be making additional recommendations that we will try to implement. I also am meeting with utility companies and discussing ways in which the city can save utility expenses. Not only do these help our environment, but provide a cost savings to the city. The fireworks celebration on Friday, July 4th downtown was a huge success. I would like to recognize Mary Incredible's efforts for asking for donations to make sure the city of Muncie can celebrate our country's birthday. Thank you, Mary. I would also like to recognize the Muncie Police Department for their efforts in policing the event and for giving up time with their families on the 4th so that the rest of us can enjoy time with ours. With a crowd that size, their presence is vitally important to maintaining civility so that everyone can enjoy the fireworks display. And I especially want to publicly recognize the donors: the Ziegler Foundation, the Community Foundation, First Merchants Bank, the Star Press, Mutual Federal Savings and Loans, the Ball Foundation, Old National Bank, Councilperson Linda Gregory, WGE Credit Union, Hudson Rentals, and especially WLBC and Backyard Broadcasting for their many hours of announcing, choreographing, and hosting a reception for the donors. I also would like to recognize CEP and Mark Ziegler for their efforts in redoing the inner circle of the Walnut Roundabout. They committed $5,000 to install a water source, new sod, and plantings. Once again, we are very fortunate to have people in our community so willing to give of their resources. To follow up on a point made last month, I did call Councilwoman Mary Jo Barton and scheduled a time to meet with her and ultimately toured Prairie Creek. She indicated their original concerns had been taken care of. There was a concern regarding a man putting his foot through a pier. However, I've been told by the park superintendent that the pier with the rotted plank is yet to be found, that they will continue to look for it so that it may be repaired. I would also like to introduce to you Mr. Dick Shirey. Although the move was considered controversial by some, last year City Council did approve the funding for Deputy Mayor for 2008, and Dick has been a valuable asset to the city since his appointment. He has jumped in with both feet and will provide added leadership and guidance to the department heads as we measure our effectiveness in providing services to the city of Muncie. Thank you. We have received 2009 budget revenue estimates in regard to local road and streets and motor vehicle funds, and it's not good news. It has been estimated for local road and street funds that the funding continues to decrease. These funds are used for paving and paving equipment. The motor vehicle funds designated for the street department budget will remain the same for next year, which means as the cost of paving materials, snow removal, etc. increase, we will have less revenue to work with. Monies from the cigarette tax, gasoline tax, and motor vehicle funds that are appropriated from the state to the city's general fund will take an even more significant hit. The cigarette tax revenue will be cut by more than half, the gasoline tax will be cut in half, and the motor vehicle funds designated for the general fund will also be cut in half. And lastly, I would also like to recognize the supporters of the Muncie Fire Department. We've all seen the signs that have been posted outside and inside the city limits supporting our firefighters. As we await the definitive numbers that will determine the cuts that have to be made in all taxing bodies, support in the community is vitally important. It is my hope that all city departments, though not as visibly, are supported by the community. We have tough decisions to make, and as I said before, will change the way services are provided in the city of Muncie.
I got a question. Council Person Martin?
You know, our last meeting, you remember me asking you how much money was spent on the challenge, and you said that there was one less person that went, but you never did tell me the amount. Do you know that amount now?
We have not received the bill yet. That is handled through our Economic Development Alliance, and so when they provide the bill for us, then we can let you know what that expense is.
Okay. And you talked about meeting with me and around Prairie Creek Law. So I don't really feel like that was done because if you remember, Mayor, I showed you a form with the numbers on it, and you told me that money couldn't be right. Do you remember doing that? That amount?
What I was saying, you had complained that you didn't think the facility was being kept up as it had been before, and I asked you twice if you felt that everything was okay, and you just said
it was looking better. Yes, it was looking better.
Okay, and you didn't indicate anything to me that said that there was something we needed to improve.
I was showing you figures, though, and telling you different figures that was in that budget, and you said that those figures couldn't be right. Do you remember that?
Right. We were looking at expenses. We were looking at budgeted items. Yes.
Right. Okay, and then another question is, and I have also talked to Mary Ann about this, about the fireworks. And I do appreciate the fact that the fireworks was held downtown. And when talking with Mary Ann, I just couldn't understand why she would have asked for fireworks at Prairie Creek also, because we probably could made about $2,000 easy that evening. So, you know, next year it might be something you might consider, because we will make money out there, whereas downtown, I don't know that the money will. So that would be something I think really needs to be considered.
And I understand that. As I tried to explain when I visited with you at the reservoir, we have to look at the city as a whole, and the reservoir is a portion of that, and is also a portion of the Parks Department. When we were asking for donations from the community, we received almost $30,000 in donations, either in monies or in kind, to put on the 30-minute show in downtown Muncie. The concern was, how could we not put on fireworks in the city? It's time to celebrate our country's birth. It's our birthday, and so at that point in time, that was the priority. Quite frankly, the reservoir at that time was not even being considered. It was how are we going to put on fireworks for the city? The reservoir is part of the city, and so therefore it was not considered that they would need to have their own fireworks show.
But you know, you might want to consider it next year, given the fact that the reservoir is the only park that brings in any revenue to the city.
And I understand that.
I would really appreciate that.
Any other questions for the mayor?